Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch, and hot on the heel of giving Godot $250,000, Epic Mega Games are back with their Mega Grants program. And this time the recipient is ArmorPaint. Remember the Armory game engine? I've talked about this guy a couple times in the past. The Armory game engine powers ArmorPaint. ArmorPaint is aiming to be an open source alternative to the Substance Painter application. And like I said, they just received a grant from Epic Games. We'll get into what the grant means and all of that stuff. Here's a quick look at ArmorPaint. Sorry, I call it ArmorPaint all the time. I'm never going to stop doing that because it is powered by the Armory game engine. This is ArmorPaint, god damn it. So you can see here, it's actually improved a little bit since I last talked about it, but I'm not going to go into a ton of depth about what this guy's all about because I've already done a video about that. I will link that video in just a few minutes so you can get in and learn more, but I just want to at least show you it. Also, since that last video, 0.8 was released, now we've got a new browser here, we've got a script console option available here, and some generalized improvements. But if you're wondering what it's all about, it is for painting your 3D models. Basically, you can use dynamic graphs to create these scenes. Right now I'm using what I thought was a fitting texture, so you could start decaling or painting in your world. In this case, I'm just using a straight out image texture to create an output material. Let's say I wanted to change things up a bit. Let's instead mix this guy out. So we'll go into here to this node and we'll drop that mixed result out here, and then we'll drop in a blue. And here you see now we've got a bluish tinge. So that is kind of a very, very basic high level idea of what ArmorPaint is all about. If you've used Substance Painter, ArmorPaint is on its way, and it is already a very cool program. There's a lot of features and functionality here. Symmetrical painting, you've got tablet support already, you got a layering system over here, you got plugin support, dynamic materials that you can create. Again, we now have this new material browser. It is a program that is definitely showing a ton of potential, and a lot of people are looking for something like this because Substance, the makers of both, Algorithmic, the makers of both Substance Painter and Substance Designer, were recently acquired by Adobe, and not everybody is fans of Adobe or Adobe's Creative Cloud subscription model. So they are looking for an alternative. So here we are back to the announcement. ArmorPaint has been awarded an Epic Megagrant. Full steam ahead to build the best possible open source 3D painting software. So a little bit more details, and this is really all I've got, to be honest. This is follow-up right here. Grant is for 25 grand, which will allow me to keep expanding the project for the whole of 2020. I would like to thank Epic Games for this opportunity. Rob Dangerous, that is the guy who makes let's see, Kink, Ka, I always forget the other one, but basically the tool set that powers ArmorPaint is made by Rob Dangerous. If you're interested in learning more about Ka, search for What is Ka, a video I did about that cross-platform graphics framework. So basically, yeah, that's it. We've got a new Epic Mega Grant, and that Epic Mega Grant is for ArmorPaint. Now what you saw here, this guy in action, it is an open source project. Now if you want to not have to compile binaries yourself, well, you can fork out some cash, something like 15 bucks on itch.io. But if you have the patience and the tool chain set up and so on, and you want to build it yourself, good news, I've got you covered there. So the other thing that happened here is ArmorPaint 0.8 dev builds released. So there's a work-in-process asset browser with material previews, layer grouping, script console, and faster ray tracing, and painting transparent surfaces are now added in the 0.8 release. So we're already seeing improvements here. This was the end of last month that this was done, so about a month ago, and now he's got more funding. He's going to be working on this all of next year thanks to Epic's funding. So expect ArmorPaint to get much, much better. Now you might be curious, well, what about Armory? And there's actually some comments here basically about what about Armory, and no answers yet, so who knows. But the one thing is, Armory ultimately powers ArmorPaint, so one improves, so does the other as a general rule. So that is cool, and again, there's a little bit of details about the ArmorPaint 0.8 release. Now, if you're interested and you want to build ArmorPaint yourself to check it out, I do have these instructions. I will link these in the linked article down below. It's a pretty straightforward process as long as you've got the tool chain set up. You're going to need a couple things like Git, Node, and a probably Visual C++ 2017 or 2019 installed. And other than that, it's a pretty straightforward step-by-step process. It takes all of 5 to 10 minutes to do the build if you have all of the tools installed. If you want to check it out yourself, pretty straightforward. If you don't want to go through this process, you can just give them some money, and they're perfectly happy with taking some money. So next up, if you're interested in learning more about ArmorPaint, I did do a hands-on video just like let's see, a month and a half ago. So again, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about ArmorPaint because I did that video. Obviously, it doesn't include the new 0.8 stuff, but it is a pretty current walkthrough of what ArmorPaint is all about. So if you're interested in learning more about ArmorPaint, that will be linked in the linked article as well. And now a little bit about the Mega Grants program. Now, if you're a regular to this channel, you've got to know about Mega Grants because I've been reporting on them again and again and again because, well, Epic just keeps throwing money at great projects. So I'm going to keep reporting on it. And I got to applaud Epic on this one. You know, they said at GDC of 2019 that they were going to give away $100 million, $100 million of that Fortnite money to basically people that were making stuff. So you're making games using Unreal Engine, you're making media or entertainment, you're in the enterprise space, the educational space, or the one that we keep benefiting from, the tool and open source developers. Even if those open source tools are direct competitors to Unreal Engine, apply with them and they might help you with the funding. And again, we've had a number of pretty high profile things funded, and let's go through a couple of them right now. So the most recent one back in the February, so this month still, Godot received $250,000 from them. That was definitely a nice little perk. So Godot is very well funded now thanks to Unreal Engine. Isn't that a weird world we live in? On top of that, they also gave Krita, the open source painting application, I forget how much money Krita actually got. It's got to be here somewhere. They got 25 grand as well. So they got almost a year worth of developer funding thanks to that particular grant. So if you want to learn more about that, again, I've done a video on that as well. Then they also funded Blender to the tune of $1.2 million. So Blender, that's basically 2 full-time developers for a number of years, I believe is how it's going to be used. This was kind of the one that kicked it all off. So that was back in July of 2019. And then they also gave Dust 3D, I believe $25,000 as well. Dust 3D is an interesting open source modeling application. I did some coverage of that guy in the past. I do a video on it. I'm actually going to revisit it at some point in time. It's like a rapid organic modeling tool. It's a very unique and interesting application for sure. And again, they got $25,000 from Epic Games as well. And then finally, and slightly less game development oriented, but still equally relevant, Epic Games gave the open source game manager Lutris $25,000 as well. So they're definitely, they're following through on their words. They keep feeding money into the ecosystem. It's getting better and better. I can't fault this. I don't see, there's no ulterior motive here that I can see. And actually, ArmorPaint makes a ton of sense because they also recently, this is Epic Games, recently bought Quixel, the makers of Mixer and owners of the Megascans library, and they're also working on some tools that are going to be competing with Substance Painter as well. But I would say that Quixel's tools and ArmorPaint are an absolute match made in heaven, where you can take ArmorPaint, but you can use that huge catalog of Quixel's Megascan textures. If they made that hookup happen, oh, that would be pretty awesome. And I kind of would love to see Epic push down that road, but there's no announcements like that. There doesn't seem to be any intention that that is what this is all about. This is just straight up funding for ArmorPaint going forward. So if you're interested, it's a well-funded project. It is going to continue to improve in the immediate future. So if you find yourself looking for a alternative to something like Substance Painter, do be sure to check out ArmorPaint. Hopefully it gets better and better. It is improving at a rapid rate. Unfortunately, it seems to be kind of a little bit at the cost of the Armory engine, at least updates to the Armory engine. But all the same, in all honesty, and I really hate to say this, but I think the world needs this ArmorPaint more than they need yet another game engine. So ArmorPaint, priority over a game engine, 100%. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially when you have things like UPBGE, by the way, stay tuned, Verge 3D, Blend for Web, etc., that you've got for bringing Blender workflows into game engines. I honestly think there's a ton of logic in the developer focusing on ArmorPaint, especially with what has happened in the world of Substance. This is the most mature 3D painting application out there, with the only real alternative I can think of right now being 3D Coat. And that's a program I haven't checked out in a very long time. And ArmorPaint has some placeholders for some very cool stuff that hopefully we see soon, such as particle painting. That is a big part of what Substance can do right now. But it's improving at a staggeringly good rate. And again, this grant should just help that even more. So I got to ask the same question I ask every single time. I know for some reasons, some of you really don't like Epic Games. Either it's, you know, the Epic Games Store or Fortnite or, I don't know, Tim killed your dog. Whatever the reason is, do these grants, do these moves, do these things like buying up Quixel and making it Mixer completely free. By the way, stay tuned for that as well. I got news there. And again, these mega grants to things like the Godot Game Engine, ArmorPaint, and so on. Are they kind of bringing you around, or nah, still hate? Let me know, comments down below, and I'll talk to you all later. And once again, ArmorPaint, congratulations. And Epic, good on you. All right, see you all later. Goodbye.